Oh,
We're here.
we're here. I love that. I love that song. I don't know why. It's just something about it is so
It's catchy.
catchy, I guess. But thank you for joining us. It is Thursday, 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. That is Robert Hilliard. I am Whitney Wiley, and you are here for the State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond. And we are thankful that you have chosen to join us this afternoon, or if you're watching it on replay, for the replay. So thank you for being here. We are talking all things leadership, and it is the first Thursday of the month, which means we are covering the simple leadership method components. And today's episode, we're going to be diving into the vital role of energy in leadership and its significance for both leaders, you as a leader, and for your team. So, energy is multifaceted, right? It goes beyond physical stamina. It encompasses physical, yes, but mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions as well. And these different forms of energy influence your ability to inspire, to motivate, and guide your team. And energy is contagious, whether you've got vibrant energy or do you remember, Robert, that cartoon? I don't remember who it is, but I can. It's like woesy, woesy me.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about.
And so it was just like
Yeah,
this, like really low energy, right? So it doesn't matter if your energy is up or if your energy is down. It can have an impact on others because it's contagious. And as a leader, one thing that you don't want to do is bring the energy of your team down. So we're going to talk about energy, how some strategies for you to keep it up, some things that you need to do to keep your team in a space, right? In an energetic space, because you like attracts like, right? And so if you are putting out bad, negative, low energy, you get that back. And so, not something that you want to do.
no.
Robert, opening thoughts on this?
What you said was fantastic. The different types of energy. That was one of the things that I was going to bring up if you didn't on the show. But the other thing I think that people forget, because I think we know this, but sometimes we forget, is that energy cascades into other forms of energy. So if your emotional energy is down, it can affect your physical energy and vice versa, or your spiritual energy or your intellectual energy. So knowing the cascading effect of energy, how it has on you inside yourself, and then noticing what you said is how your energy affects other people, because it is contagious,
Yeah,
especially emotional energy. Emotional energy is very catchy.
yes, yes. And the most important thing, and this starts with the first component of simple, right, is self-awareness, is understanding that your energy does impact other people. And once we recognize that and we start to pay attention to it, then we can manage it in a way that actually benefits us and the team.
Absolutely. And there's this relationship that your energy will have in other people, and it creates a feedback loop, and you need to be mindful of that. And as leaders, sometimes leaders mistake, how should I say this, fearful energy of their team
Mm,
for enthusiasm. And that's not enthusiasm. And a lot of people think that if you really turn the screws on somebody, really ratchet up the fear type of response, that's going to energize them. And what ends up happening is that it has that initial effect, but that it's like if you were scared by a tiger, you would tear, you would run really fast for about 10 seconds. But after that initial burst
Yeah.
of adrenaline and cortisol is done, you're depleted. And so a lot of people mistake that. I remember having a conversation with a colleague who worked with somebody. I didn't work with them, they worked in another organization. And he was always at odds with his coworker, who was a director level. And it was about their management style. And the other person was one of those people that liked to yell at his workforce, his employees. And he said he did that because it motivated them. And that's not really, that's not what you're seeing. You're not seeing motivation. You're seeing the fear response, which has that, that depletion effect later on.
That is such a good analogy, and I thought that just because your energy is up doesn't mean it's positive.
No.
Right. And so you want high energy, and vibrant energy, but you also want it to be positive. You don't want it to be depleting. And because there are different types of energy, paying attention to those various aspects and how they influence each other, right? They're not in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, I have physical energy and it's in a box, and I have emotional energy and it's in a box. They influence each other. And so just having the awareness of that gives you the opportunity to make sure that, and this goes to another component of simple, which is intentionality, right? Is being intentional with your energy and how you are approaching, whether it's meetings, it is delegating assignments and duties, right? Just really paying attention to what it is you're doing and how it is you're doing, being intentional with your energy so that you can recoup the best from yourself and from those that you're leading.
Yeah, it's about how you show up, and you should be aware of how you show up. But I think what's really interesting, and when you were talking about energy and you mentioned simple, one of the things that when we were putting simple together, one of the things that we thought about what was the fact that these things feed off each other. And while the S is first, it doesn't mean that you just consider it one time. It's going to pop up even when you're talking about being intentional or being masterful. And that's something that can be hard because, as you know, I'm a very linear person. You know how I work. I work best when this is step one, and this is step two. But you also know that over the years, I've adapted to a more, okay, I need to work on things simultaneously. A lot of people have a problem with that, and I know that I certainly struggle with it from time to time. But just to remember that once you look at something in the model, or you look at something when it comes to energy, you don't just look at it, like you said, in a vacuum and like, okay, I've talked about that, or I thought about that, or I reflected on that. Now that's done. And I can start working on this other type of energy or this other aspect of simple. That's not how it works. It's kind of like those meters that go like this, right? Different aspects at different times, but they're always running, and you always need to go back and take a look at it.
I think of it, you did that. I think of it as dovetailing, and it's like, right. And it comes and goes, and it's important to recognize that none of this is one and done, right? And nothing in your personal development, your professional development, leadership, career, none of it is one and done. Life is not one and done. And it is, I think this is one of those things that when I'm working with my clients that they tend to struggle with in the beginning is this feeling that just what you said, oh, I worked on that and it happened again, or I'm still struggling with, and it's like, well, you spent, and depending on how old you are, depending on how long it's been an issue, right? You've spent months, years, decades doing things a particular way. There's a pull, right? Speaking of energy, there's a pull for you to do it a particular way. We build these habits, whether they're thought habits or active habits, we build them. Our brain is looking for the simple way to get things done, to conserve energy, right? So our brains are doing this thing, and now you're telling it, I want you to do it differently, right? And so you keep getting this pull, this tug to go back to the way you were doing things. And so it's going to happen. And what you want ultimately is for the amount of time that you go back and do something that you're trying to undo, that time increases, right? And if I just could, pick a time frame, that something that you were doing on a daily basis, that you get to a point where maybe you're only doing it once a month, and then once a year, and then it's been so long since you've done it. But don't be upset that it pops up again. Just recognize it is what it is. I know how to move through that or beyond that, and then keep doing that. I want to, before you say that, I want to share a comment from a viewer. Says energy definitely can impact the work environment, especially when management is not expelling a great work environment. It can hurt the morale of the overall business, and that absolutely is true. And so we have to recognize that if we're not intentional, we're going to create your energy is going to have an impact regardless, right?
Absolutely.
And so what you want to do is to be deliberate in how you are directing that energy, so that you get the outcomes, or at least have a better chance of getting the outcomes that you're seeking.
Absolutely. We can use the show as, I'm glad that person brought that up, because that's true. We could use the show as an example of that. When I come on the show, and I'm sure you do the same thing, I think about the energy I want to have. You know me, I can be very, I'm an introvert, but when I'm close to people, I can be really out there. That's not the energy I want to put into the show, because I'm trying to be more professional. So you need to think about that and be intentional with there we go again with that cycle we talked about. You're intentional with your energy, because you want to look at the outcome that you're trying to get from the energy input that you're having, or energy output, I should say. So it's one of those things that you have to think about. And some people don't really think about it, which is why it's in the model, right? A lot of people don't think about this is how am I going to show up? They don't think about that. And we've all had bosses that would enter the office, like you'd be there, and maybe you come to the office a little bit early. You're talking to a coworker who happens to be there, and you have this great camaraderie and energy, and then the boss comes in a sour face, and the energy goes, it just drops. And I worked in an environment like that for many years, and I think I told you this, and I've said this on the show. That boss actually pulled me to the side and said, I don't like the fact that you're so cheerful in the morning. I said, tough. That's how I am. Look, I mean, I'm cheerful in the morning, and if you don't want me to say hi to you, I won't say hi to you. But that's just my personality. I'm not going to change my personality because you don't like cheerful people. But that's how some people are, and that was my boss. So you can imagine the type of environment that person liked.
So let me take a half a step back and just say what energy is, right? Real simple. concise definition. Energy, simply as we are talking about it, is the driving force that propels you forward, right? It enables you to take action to achieve your goals and to be able to inspire others. And as mentioned, it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It is and it impacts all aspects of your being. It impacts your ability to influence performance, yours and others. It has an impact on your relationships, personal and professional, right? And it dictates your overall well-being. And as you were talking, Robert, about it having a boss who would come in and didn't want you to be cheerful, right? I've been in those environments as well, and in both ways, where I've worked for someone and we would be in a meeting waiting for, I'll just say, this particular person to show up. The energy and the vibrancy in the room very high, everybody's interacting. This person walks in and it just goes right. And someone who saw themselves, here's the irony in that, someone who saw themselves as very optimistic, very outgoing, someone who was encouraging, an open door policy, encouraging people to come in. But the reality was that despite the whatever that was that professed that was that person's personality, the reality was that the words, the talk didn't match the walk.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to be careful of that as well.
A lot of people don't know how they appear to other people or come off to other people. Think about this. Remember the first time you heard your voice on a recording and you were like, that's not me. That is how most people are. That is how most people are. And I see that someone says they've been exposed to many environments like that. You will find that most environments are like that. And this is something that we talked about. It's because of the old industrial mindset of leadership that people should have their head down and just producing widgets or whatever it is and not thinking. And they only see people. I don't want to say they only. Many of those folks only see people as things that produce something. That's it. And so that it can create that kind of, I don't want to use the term, but negative environment.
It says, yes, saying what is politically correct, but in all actuality, they want you to just do your job and be quiet. Right?
Absolutely. And it's very difficult to work in those situations, especially when you say saying what's politically correct, especially when they profess, and we talk about this all the time. A lot of places will profess, we have an open door policy, like you said, or we're like family. I always get nervous when people say we're like a family.
Our values are family. We're about
family values, and those are or we care about our employees. Well, okay. A lot of times those things are aspirational. They may feel that they really do, but they're not doing it and showing it in their actions. And so that can be the dichotomy with those types.
Right. And that's the energy part of this. It's not just the words, it's the action, right? Yes. It's the action, it's the doing, and the feeling. It is emoting that, not just saying it. And until we get to a place where we are very much aware of who we are, and as you've said a couple of times, how we show up. You want to know how you show up? Ask somebody, right? Don't just think that you show up a particular way. Be willing to ask someone. Take a chance that you may get an answer that requires you to take a different approach or take a different action. And so I'm just going to say this. You got to pay attention to all the forms of energy, right? To all the forms and how they are dovetailing in and out of each other, so that you can make sure that as you are tapping into your energy reserves, right, that you are sparking motivation, inspiration in yourself and those that you are leading.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times we don't, we do spend a lot of time thinking, and I'm guilty of it too, my physical energy. Am I tired? Am I hungry? Is it affecting my performance? What I had to do? But we don't look at those things that impact the other forms of energy, like your mental energy, your ability to stay focused and to pay attention, emotional energy, whether or not your needs are getting met by what you're doing, your spiritual energy, are things conflicting with your sense of purpose? We don't tend to think in those dimensions. We usually focus, when you say energy, we usually think physical energy, and that's where we all get caught up, because we're that's what we're taught when we're young. Are you energetic? That means you're running around, you're using your body. Oh, you seem to have low energy, you're not moving around a lot. So we tend to focus a lot on the physical, but knowing the other dimensions of energy is really important to this work.
And I will say this, your physical energy has a lot of influence on the other, spiritual, emotional, mental. But if you only focus on the physical, right? And here's the thing. We will focus on the physical, but some of it is about doing nothing, right, that will restore that energy. And I fear that there's a notion that being energetic physically and otherwise is about constantly doing and continuously ramping up, and that's not the case, right? And we'll shift now into talking about things that you can do that help to improve your energy, right? And one of them is rest. One of them is doing nothing. It's self-care. It's taking care of yourself and all aspects of yourself. So if you want to improve your energy, don't feel like you have to be, it's not about being the Energizer Bunny, right? That's not the point, to just constantly be going. It is to take stock of what you're feeling, how you're showing up, and then addressing what you need in order to show up the way you want to show up. And as you said, Robert, sometimes you don't, not only do you not want to, it's not appropriate in every situation to show up like, I don't say manic, but just it's not appropriate. And so you have to be cognizant of what's appropriate in different situations. And again, going back to that intentionality aspect of what is it that you are trying to achieve, and what is the best way for you to go about doing that. But in terms of how you can improve your energy, just a few things that you can do. And I'll start where it's about work-life balance, right? Or harmony or integration. It's about having a healthy approach to work, a healthy approach to your life, the intersection of the two, right? That it's important to make sure that you take breaks, that you're taking your vacations, that you take out time outside of work for personal interest and personal development, right? And one of the things that happens in sort of the climate that we have been in, and for many currently still in, is burnout and exhaustion.
Yeah.
Right, that impacts your energy, particularly your emotional energy. So
Absolutely.
promoting balance for yourself and your team will go a long way towards helping to improve the energy of the people that you're working with.
Absolutely. And I think we don't spend enough time really thinking about the things that will replenish our energy. Think about vacation. You and I had that brief discussion before we got on the program. And when you say vacation, it's funny to me when I see a lot, I'm not judging, because however you like to enjoy your vacation, that's perfectly fine. But when I see people parasailing and zip lining, and I'm like, oh no. For me, a vacation is being someplace quiet around nature, perhaps reading a book for enjoyment, and just relaxing, so that when I'm back at work, I can work really, really hard. But perhaps people doing those things are maybe that's replenishing them. It certainly can replenish your emotional energy. It certainly can do that.
Yeah.
When you do those things. But so knowing the balance is very key, like you said.
It goes to self-awareness. What works for you, right? And I'm like you, I'm an introvert. I can be out there, but when I'm done training, when I'm done coaching, when we're done here today, I'll be taking a nap. Right? So I'm very much aware of what it takes for me to replenish my energy. I can, be vibrant and, active and effusive. That's not necessarily my nature. Right. I can be around people. I love being around people, but I love being to myself. And I am replenished as an introvert. I am replenished by dialing it back. Other people are out there. We were talking about vacation because I just had, I'm air quoting vacation. I had time off, went to actually Robert's area of the country for graduation for my nephew. And the amount of time we were there was something happening every single day. The entire 10 days that we were gone, something that was going on every single day. And I came back a little exhausted. That's not normally the way I come back from a vacation, but it was involving family and others. And we had 4 different places that we were, and changing, accommodations. We changed accommodations 3 times over the term of those 10 days. And it was, when I came back, I needed a vacation from my vacation. And normally I am much more like you. I'm very, chill.
Yeah.
I will plan something here and there, but there will be days in between. So there'll be days in between before we go and do something else. And, so it's about finding that balance, but you can't do that without the self-awareness of who you are and what works for you. So if parasailing and, jumping off of buildings and, helicopter rides and all of that works for you, it energizes you and makes you feel alive and all of that, and then also rested and revitalized, then do it. Do it. Right? You need to understand what that is. The other part, though, as a leader, is you need to understand what works for your people as well. All right, individually and as a team, and giving them opportunities to do that. So it's not just your energy that matters, it is the entirety of your team. And taking the time to find out what that is really important. And some of the way you do that is by leading by example, right? And demonstrating how that works, particularly in the work-life balance. It is not being someone who says that you are encouraging your people, right, to take their breaks and go to lunch and take their vacations. But what's rewarded, right, is the people who are going, right? Because people will see that. It's like you said that I could take my break, but the people who get rewarded are the people who don't.
Right.
And so if you are encouraging people to rejuvenate, reinvigorate, and all of that, then you've got to reward that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Another thing, and this goes in this vein, is just fostering that environment, a supportive environment, creating a supportive and inclusive work culture where your team members are valued and heard. When that's happening, you're celebrating their achievements and you're recognizing their efforts, and providing constructive feedback, right? That's something that actually motivates and energizes your team. When you are not communicating, when you're not creating the environment that is in alignment with the espoused values, right? You will drain energy, and ultimately you'll start to lose your talent. Right? People are, particularly right now, where people are very much in paying attention to their values, what matters to them, right? If you are not creating environments that are supporting what you're actually saying, you're going to lose them.
Yeah, I think that's the trick, and that's being mindful of the type of energy that other people are, what not only what they require, but the energy that you bring, and watching that interplay. When you show up to a meeting, if you show up to a meeting late, does the whole room get quiet? Does people stop talking? Do people's personalities change? That's feedback. That's information for you to be like, okay, what happened there? And the other thing that you mentioned was getting feedback from other people. We don't tend to think of feedback as a gift, but feedback is a gift, right? Because some of us are sensitive. I'm going to put myself in that category. And when you get unsolicited feedback, you kind of bristle a little bit. But feedback is a gift, because most of us, we can go through life without knowing how we appear to other people. And by making some adjustments, we could be a lot more successful, a lot more powerful, get a lot more done, be a lot more influential if we just get some feedback and act on that feedback. So that's just want to throw that out there.
No, absolutely. So I want to start to wind this up, looking at what happens when you show up with bad energy. Right? Negative energy, low energy. What impact does it have on your team, so that you can see why this is so important, right? We've talked about it being up and showing up the way you want, being intentional about that. But if for whatever reason currently you recognize any of this, maybe you could take a step back and say, maybe there's something about the way I'm showing up that's creating this, that's creating the environment that is leading to these outcomes. So low morale and motivation, right? If you are unintentionally projecting low energy, it can dampen the morale and motivation of your team members. So you want to pay attention to your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion. If you are in a job that you are disengaged from, right, sort of just going through the motions, how do you think you're going to get your team members to show up any differently?
Right.
Right. And so if you're seeing low morale and motivation, just I'm not saying that it is you, but you've got to ask the questions. You've got to ask the questions and look at your behavior, the way you're showing up, and seeing if you're contributing to this in some way. Poor communication amongst your team members, starting with you, or if you are unaware of your energy, how you're showing up, it may show up in the way you and your team are communicating, right? Being disinterested and unenthusiastic, right? So again, this is about paying attention. Productivity. You got low productivity or a decrease in productivity, right? What could you be doing, or what may you be doing that's leading to this decrease in productivity? Are you stressed and burnt out? Right? If you're stressed and burned out, then right, that's just gonna.
Then you're
And all of this really comes from, and I would say probably a lack of awareness, right? Because I honestly do not believe that anyone wants any of these negative outcomes.
No.
All right. And so if you don't want those negative outcomes, but you're getting them, again, taking the time to get some awareness around this, your lack of awareness may be creating these challenges for you. And which is why in the simple method, self-awareness is first. Again, it is not I'll get some self-awareness and this solves everything. You're constantly working on being aware of yourself and your interaction with others, right? It is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. It's one of the sort of 4 components: is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management. And, all of that matters. And if you are not paying attention to that, and then making adjustments continuously, consistently, being disciplined about it, then one day you show up, you're stressed, you're burnt out, and you're wondering why you're getting low productivity, low morale, and high turnover.
I was going to make interject something, and I think that a lot of people are maybe afraid to ask the question why. And I've mentioned this on several of the shows, but it's a really good example of how a manager's energy changed the room. I remember, and I've said this a couple of times, we were doing brainstorming activity, and every time somebody mentioned something, the manager would say, that won't work here. And after the 3rd time we just started, no one would talk.
Yeah.
And it was noticeable because the manager was like, well, why isn't anybody talking? But never once after that did they pull anybody aside and go, what did I do that changed the whole energy of the meeting? We started out that meeting very energetic and energized, and by the time that we wrapped up, no one had any energy.
Yeah.
So it's asking that question: what am I doing to contribute to this?
Yeah, just ask the question, right? You until you know, right? You can't address it. You can't fix it. And so you've got to know. That means being okay with getting feedback, not taking it personally. Even if it is personal, you don't take it personal, right? And it is personal to the degree that it's about you, but take it in the spirit in which it's provided, which is improvement, And ultimately, that's what you're there for, right? For everyone to bring their full, whole, best selves, the best version of themselves to the workplace and your environment. And you can't do that if you don't know what's not working or why it's not working, right? So final thoughts as we wrap this up.
Final thoughts is I have an animal that's been trying to get out of my office for about 2 minutes. That's why I'm distracted. I'm like, just wait 2 minutes. Final thoughts is to really my final thought is if you're a leader and you're really interested in how you show up, pay attention to how others respond to you or react to you when you're interacting with them.
That's a mic drop moment, right? Seriously, the whether you're willing to ask someone for verbal feedback or not, their actions is feedback. Resistance is feedback. And paying attention to that, and then being willing, you can go off in your corner and ask why, or what am I doing that's contributing to this? And be open, even if it's just a dialogue with yourself, or is that a monologue? Even if it's just with yourself, right? Being willing to hear the truth, to feel the truth, to know the truth. And then you can make some changes that can turn it all around. And that's what we're here for. What we want is to help you be the best leader that you can be. And it starts with your awareness of who you are, how you're showing up, how you're impacting others. And once you get some clarity on that, where it is you want to go, how it is you want to show up, and closing that gap, you can get there.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can get there is with a little help. So,
Yeah.
Robert,
Yes.
someone wanted to get some help in this area.
Yeah, they can reach out to me at inspire me at roberthilliardcoaching.com, or you can just go to my website, roberthilliardcoaching.com. And, I have articles on there. And somebody mentioned working in that, I don't want to use the term negative, but challenging environment. I have quite a few articles about working in those environments. I think one of them is talking about working with toxic leaders, and just something to remember. Leaders that you consider toxic don't consider themselves toxic. So that's one thing to remember. So if you are interested, check out that article. I have quite a few of them on my site.
Yeah, such a good point. And often people, they don't consider themselves toxic, or at least they won't admit that they're toxic, right? That's a self-preservation thing. We've talked about that before on the show. I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future. But you can make a change. And if you don't know how, reach out. So Robert is, an excellent executive coach. He works with leaders, helping them to be the best versions of themselves. I do the same. And so you could reach out to me. Check out shiftingintoaction.now.site, shiftingintoaction.now.site. I actually have an ebook about being a better leader, and you can get that, my gift to you. You can check it out there. And about getting some balance in your life, some wellness in your life. Check out another ebook there. Again, my gift to you. So we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. Again, we're here on Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. The State of Leadership, Simple and Beyond, talking about all things leadership. And we invite you, if you've got a topic that you would like for us to cover, reach out, drop us a line, let us know what it is. We would love to cover topics specific to something that you are interested in. We want to thank you for your participation and contribution to the program today with your comments in on LinkedIn, on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, we invite you to like and subscribe to the program, and also on Facebook. So thank you for being here, whether live or Memorex. And until next time, stay energized, inspired, and take care.
See you soon.